I have a twin sister, and she hasn't historically been super into fitness or training. But last year, when I was starting to go on my cut, my sister and my mom offered to start dieting with me. They were just doing it to keep me company. It wasn't like they wanted to lose a ton of weight. They didn't even expect to really have any results with it. They just wanted to do it purely for my benefit because they're so caring. They wanted to be there for me. And I took that as an opportunity. My gratitude for them is so great, because dieting alone can be a pretty difficult experience, especially if you're living at home, which I was and still am. I was 18 at the time, so I was kind of subject to the people around me all the time and vice versa. So they had to deal with my hunger and short temper and lack of patience, and I had to deal with seeing a bunch of people eating delicious food all the time. So last year, something changed. Everyone in my household decided to start dieting alongside me, and a switch started to flip after the first week or two, which is when they started to see real results. So when they started out, they all believed that they were going to start gaining weight. Everyone, my dad, my mom, and my sister, because they were eating so much food. They weren't used to eating a healthy, well-balanced diet with lots of protein and healthy fats and fiber. So they were like, I don't know about this. This is a lot of food. I feel like I'm eating all the time and I'm so full. I'm not hungry for my next meal yet. Why are we eating again? And after 1 or 2 weeks, when the weight loss wasn't slowing down, they were like, okay, maybe this is something. But for my sister, it was her first time ever attempting weight loss. It was her foray into fitness. And I had 3 years of experience under my belt by that point. I had undergone 2 or 3 fat loss diets already leading into this. So I was able to steer her in the right direction and stop her from going down any of the various common pitfalls of over-restriction or improper calculation of calories. Anything that most beginners kind of get set off course by was circumvented by my experience and guidance. So for the first year of her fitness weight loss journey, there was zero resistance training involved. She did cardio, like she did 10,000 steps a day every single day for the entire nearly year and a half now. She's been very consistent with that, but it was just 10,000 steps and caloric deficit, caloric restriction. She hasn't been dieting the whole time, obviously, but she's very mindful of her calorie intake. So even though she wasn't, on a fat loss phase for most of the time, she's been eating at maintenance and maintaining her weight perfectly. So yeah, she started training with me in the last month or so, and it has made me really think again about my exercise philosophy, my training philosophy, because I remember when I was starting, I was so overwhelmed. I was seeing a different video. Oh, my gimbal died. Let me see if I can fix this setup real quick. Okay, I think that should hold. I was super overwhelmed when I first got into consistent lifting and resistance training, because there was so much information that was beginner focused. And I think that's actually where I went wrong. Like, training isn't that different for beginners versus anyone else. I could have been training the way that I am right now from the time that I started lifting, and it actually would have made my progress better and saved me lots of time. So my sister, who is a 100-pound untrained teenage girl, is training the same way that I am as a bodybuilder. And I know a lot of people don't want to get too big or too bulky, but I promise that shouldn't be a real concern, because no one gets too big on accident. You're not going to wake up as Arnold Schwarzenegger tomorrow if you do, 2 heavy sets of RDLs, I promise. So there's only a few things that you actually need to give your priority to when you start training, and that should be pretty relieving, because the process is actually not very complicated. It's just difficult. It's just hard. You just need to prioritize first your intensity. Intensity is the effort that you apply while you're doing your workouts. Next is going to be consistency. Self-explanatory. You know what it means to be consistent. And third is going to be weekly volume. That just means the number of sets that you're doing each week. You know, actually scratch that. Weekly volume isn't as important as progression. Progression is going to be the third thing you need to prioritize. So intensity, it doesn't mean you're feeling the burn really strongly in your muscle, or you're doing 50 sets, or you're doing, you know, a set to failure and then you drop the weight and you keep going. Intensity for most people should just look like doing straight sets, which means a normal set, and taking it close to failure in a given rep range. So let's say you want to do between 6 and 10 reps of bench. Once you get to rep 6, if it's not feeling difficult, that weight is too light, you're not training intensely enough. You should be failing within your given rep range, or at least becoming close to failure. From the current available data, it looks like somewhere between 3 and 0 reps in reserve, which means when you stop your set, you could have either gotten somewhere between no more reps and 3 more reps. So if you're training in that range, you're probably fine. It doesn't have to be all the way to failure, but if you're a beginner, you probably don't know what true muscular failure feels like or looks like. So it's good to be taking at least some of your sets all the way, which is what I do. I train nearly all of my sets to complete failure because I don't want to leave any guesswork in the equation or leave anything on the table. So train very close to or at failure. That's intensity covered. That's all you need to think about with intensity. Consistency. This is going to depend on your split. Split just means the way that you divide up weekly volume. So I train an upper-lower split. That means I train upper body one day, the next day I train lower body, and the third day is rest. So it's technically a 3-day split because you're supposed to include rest days. So I train upper, lower, rest, infinitely repeating, unless I need to take an additional rest day or a few rest days for an injury or something like that. Granted that everything is going properly, I train 2 days on, 1 day off, upper, lower. Some other great splits that I would recommend: full body every other day. So full body, rest, you know, so on and so forth. Push pull legs, which means one day you train your pushing musculature of your upper body, which is going to be chest, shoulders, and triceps. The next day you're going to train pull, which is back and biceps, and then obviously legs, self-explanatory, all of the leg muscles. What else? There's full body, push pull legs. I also really like the Arnold split. I did that for a long time. So you train antagonist muscle groups on that split. So you train your chest and back together, and then you train your arms the next day, arms and shoulders, and then the third day is legs. So it's not dissimilar from push pull legs. It's just you group together the big torso musculature and the arms instead of doing pushing and pulling muscles. Once you have that established, that's going to kind of take care of how consistent you need to be. For me, I know I need to be in the gym 2 days on, 1 day off. I don't have it synced up to the days of the week, but if that makes it easier for you, you can. So let's say you're doing upper lower. You're going to train Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and take the weekends off. So you're going to be training 4 days a week. Monday, Tuesday on, Wednesday rest, Thursday, Friday on, weekend rest. Something like that. So you know how many days you need to be in the gym, what days you need to be in the gym, and what you're doing on those days. Take out as much momentary work of, am I supposed to go today? Should I take a day off? What am I supposed to be doing today? Eliminate that. That is going to take away so much energy and focus from what could be applied to your workouts or your nutrition. So simplify it. Keep it basic. Just what do I need to execute today and get it done? And then the last thing, progression. This is also quite simple. It's probably the hardest part of the equation, but it's not very complicated. So like I was talking about earlier with rep ranges, let's say you're training in a rep range of 6 to 10. You want to fail between 6 to 10 reps on an exercise. Let's say bicep curls. Let's say you start with 20 pounds and you fail at 6 reps. That's perfect. That's exactly how you want it to begin. Pick a weight that you can do for 6 reps and no more. You're going to continue using that weight every session until you can get it for 10 reps, you fail at 10. Then you're going to add enough weight so that you're failing at 6 again, and you do that forever. That is how you instill progressive overload in your training. You pick a weight, you pick a rep range. Once you're hitting the bottom of the rep range, you stick with that weight until you hit the top, then you add more weight. If you're not doing this, you are not building muscle. I got stuck in that trap for so long of optimizing form and squeezing and getting a really deep stretch and feeling the mind-muscle connection. None of that is meaningful if you're not progressing over time. Obviously, you need to have proper form. You need to be executing the exercise properly. You can't be doing anything unsafe, but you probably have all of that covered. If you are really worried about that, look up the exercise that you're doing, watch someone do it, take a video of yourself and ensure that you're actually performing it properly. But once you have the very basics of performing the exercise down, that's when progressive overload is so vital. Adding weight or reps to your exercise while maintaining the same form over time is a result of muscle growth. You're building muscle, you're getting stronger. It's that simple. Do not overcomplicate. Now, something that I get so many questions about, and that seems to be a huge focus for people in the whole fitness space right now, and I'm sure it's really confusing for beginners, is how many sets do I need to be doing? And to be honest, I think all of the hype around this topic is really overblown and just adding way more confusion than is necessary. It doesn't really matter as long as you are recovering from session to session and making progress. If you can recover, let's say you're doing upper lower like me. If you train 2 sets per muscle group and by the next workout, you feel like you didn't even do anything, you're ready to go again, that's great. You're making progress from session to session. That is fantastic. If you want to add a set and see how that feels, you should. I've been experimenting with this as well, and this is something that'll change over time. You will have to increase and decrease your volume depending on how your training is going. So I've been progressing really well doing 2 sets per muscle group per session. That means I go in, I do 2 sets of lat pull downs. I don't do any other lat exercises for the day. That's all I do for my lats on each day. For some muscle groups, that's going to be enough. For others, you'll be able to recover from more. The more volume you can recover from and still make progress, the better. But if by adding volume, you are no longer adding reps or weight as consistently, or you're staying sore and you're not recovering and you're tired, that's too much volume. You will need to taper it down a little bit. If you never get sore and you never feel challenged, it's probably too little volume. For most people, somewhere between 6 and 15 weekly sets per muscle group is going to be ideal. You may be someone who responds better to more or less within that range, but you're probably going to fall somewhere in there. So if I were you, I would start at the lower end and, if necessary, work your way up. The second you start getting too fatigued to keep progressing, stop adding volume. That means that you are doing what's called junk volume, which means volume that isn't actually effective and is just hurting your performance in the long term. Remember, volume is not in the top 3. That was a mistake. I didn't mean to say that. You didn't see it. Volume is not in the top 3. Consistency, intensity, overload. That's what you're prioritizing. Volume will go up or down depending on those other 3 variables. Do not let it be the one influencing those. So that's all you need to know as a beginner trainee. Specific exercise selection isn't super important. You can find lots of basic beginner programs online. Pick one and stick to it. Everything else will come with time. This is a long haul kind of game. It's taken me 4 years to learn all of this and also to build the amount of muscle that I have. I could have done it in less time if I had this knowledge at the time, but it wouldn't have been a significant difference. That's the other thing to remember. Even if you're not doing everything right, you will make progress. Just give yourself time. Do not rush it. You're not going to make crazy progress super fast. And that's okay. Just like most things in life, you're going to need to put in the years, put in the reps, and you will reap what you sow eventually. Just do not rush it. Enjoy it. Find love for the process. Be passionate about your training. That's what's going to really make the difference. Fall in love with the progression and be caring towards yourself. Don't beat yourself up too much if you're not progressing every single session, or if you're not looking big enough or not looking lean enough. If you show yourself love and grace and you show up for yourself and you're passionate and you work hard, it's all going to fall into place. Those come before everything else, before even intensity and consistency. You need to be caring to yourself and you need to want to do it. I hope that this was helpful to you. If you enjoyed, if this will be something you apply in your training, please consider dropping a like, letting me know how your training has been going with a comment, and subscribing, because I plan to make lots more helpful content for anyone from beginners to advanced trainees. I'm here to help. If you want to check out my Instagram, it's @FoxMuscle. I provide coaching. I have an ebook on training and nutrition that I put a ton of time and effort into that will answer nearly all of your questions you have as a beginner, an intermediate, or advanced in the fitness industry. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. More to come soon. Mwah.